Welcome to More Than Miles, the podcast where we use storytelling and expert interviews to widen the lens on what it means to be a happy and healthy endurance athlete. We believe that athletes are so much more than their body, sport, and training miles. I'm Dr. Kate Mihevik-Edwards.
And I'm Dr. Kacy Sinders. We are endurance athletes, physical therapists, and huge coffee addicts. We spend most of our time treating, educating, and working with endurance athletes. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Now let's get to the show. Today we're talking with former elite runner Carrie Tollefson. Carrie has an extensive running resume, including 13 Minnesota State Championships, 5 NCAA championships at Villanova, and as a member of the 2004 Olympic team. Carrie has been a positive influence in the sport of running through her various roles as a coach, podcaster, race announcer, running camp host, and much, much more.
Today's conversation was a lot of fun, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. We talked about running, obviously, and everything about running, from what it's like to be injured to how do we maintain a positive mental attitude, and then dance parties. We talked a lot about dance parties and how important they are as cross training. So if you guys don't enjoy this, I don't know what to say because it was so much fun. Hi, Carrie. Thanks so much for coming to talk with us.
Thank you for having me. This will be fun.
I know. I was thinking back about the first time we were introduced, and obviously it wasn't in person, you being in Minnesota and I'm down here in Atlanta, but a mutual friend of ours, Chuck, was like, you two have to meet.
Yeah, Chuck being a Villanova grad, and there's quite a few Villanova grads in the Atlanta area, and he likes all the nice people in the running community. So it was fun to hear that you guys have a background. Yeah, I love Chuck.
I'd heard so many nice things about you, and just, obviously I've heard your podcast and everything. But then one of the other things that I remembered is right when we were first talking, I was about to have shoulder surgery, and it had really rocked my world. And we were supposed to do a podcast together, and then I just couldn't get it together. And you were so thoughtful and kind. I remember getting this text message like a day or two after my surgery. And I'm like, Carrie just texted me. That was the sweetest thing.
Well, I know. I mean, that is so hard to have to go through a surgery when you want to be out and being active and doing things. And I thought of it and I'm like, this texting thing is pretty easy. It's not when you really need someone to talk to you, don't text. But when you're somebody that's just thinking about someone, I know that it can lift you up, and I knew that you were struggling going into it. So I figured afterwards I might as well just send a quick text. So I'm glad it made you feel better.
Yeah, it did. It was really thoughtful. And that's one of the things I've learned about you is how thoughtful you are. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I try. I'm forgetting things left and right these days. I swear. I'm like, I'm 44 years old, but is my mind a little bit older? I don't know. I got to get it going.
I mean, I have to say it's probably the kids, right? You're probably being pulled in so many directions. I have one, and that's enough for me. And you have many more.
Yeah, the 3 kiddos, they definitely are. And, now we're back into in-person school. So we had 18 months where they were home with me, and I was working full time. And even though the world sort of shut down with races that I do commentary at, I was picking up other things with Rock and Roll Marathon and Ironman and other virtual things. So life was still quite busy. But now that we're back in school and I'm picking up my old events plus my new, and I have a middle schooler who thinks it's like a party every day after school. So there's kids coming over all the time. I'm like, oh, geez, it's nuts.
I'm glad you could at least know where they all are at once. I have a hard time figuring out where I am.
Yes.
So the idea of having 3 kids, a husband, and myself to manage is way too much.
Oh, it's so fun though. But yeah, I want to be that house where kids come to. So if I have to deal with rowdy middle school girls, I will deal with that. I have 2 boys that, are a little bit more chill right now. So we're good.
I like to be that house too, as much as I joke about it. I wanted to start with your running story. And I know that you have a long running story, but at least let us know, how did you get into running? What do you love about it?
Oh man, there's so many things that I love about it, but I started a long time ago. I started when I was 10 I ran my first race when I was 5, my second race when I was 10. And then I didn't like start running until I was in junior high when I was 12 years old. So I had 2 races. And I think a lot of people assume that I was running my whole life. You know, I would go to races with my family, but I didn't start competing until I was in 7th grade, which is still pretty young. But I had a sister, I have 2 older sisters, and my middle sister was a senior when I was in 7th grade. So I was able to be on a team with her. I grew up in rural Minnesota, a town of 1,600 people. And in the state of Minnesota, even up till today, you can race at the state meet as a 7th grader. So I learned early on about the sport. I didn't know really what I was doing in it. I just knew I was supposed to try to get to the finish line as fast as I could. And a lot of times I was winning, or I was in the top 2 or 3. And I kind of fell into the sport because I wanted to be like my big sisters. And I had the opportunity to run with one. I was 9th as a 7th grader, and then in the state of Minnesota. And then from 8th grade on, I won. And so I learned early on what it meant to do the objective of this sport, you know, to get to that finish line first. But I didn't really fall in love with it probably until I was in 9th or 10th grade, you know, when I could really learn what the workouts were doing for me and the team aspect and all of that stuff. I was just following suit when I was in my younger years.
I love that part about the team sport. I mean, you think of running as an individual sport, but it really isn't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I even think of my running now as, you know, this old lady that I am.
Not old, come on.
I'm not, but you know, I think my mind still thinks that, well, wait, maybe I could get back into it. But then I go out and run and I'm like, oh, but that's really hard, not only physically, but mentally. And so then I feel old. Yeah. It's just not going to probably happen ever again. Maybe in the master's level, but yeah, it is. It's just such a wonderful sport. I feel like when I go now and meet my training partners, like I love that team aspect. You know, it is an individual thing where it's only up to you how hard you can run. But when you're on a team competing for team championships or points or whatever it is, it's super fun to know that the better you do, the better your team does. But even now, getting out the door and meeting somebody for a run, like I feel like a team player because it's dark half the time when we're running. And to get out the door and to meet somebody a mile in, like knowing I'm helping them get out the door, like, yeah, I love everything about it.
There's no way I would wake up at 5 a.m. to run if I didn't have a running partner. There was no way that would have ever happened.
No. When do you run, Kacy?
So I get up between 4:30 and 5:30. So I'm starting between 5 and 6:30 on my late days.
Oh, that is early. Like I can do the 5 a.m., 5:30, but I don't know if I could do the 4:30.
Yeah. Seeing a 4 on my alarm always makes me a little sad.
But you get it done and you're so happy when you get home, I'm sure.
Yeah. And there's something very peaceful about being out in the morning. My favorite time to run is it's dark when I start. And then as the sun rises, I mean, there's just nothing better than watching the sunrise. So I love to see that on the run. But I have some training partners too. And it's definitely helpful to know that you have to meet them. But I'm pretty good about getting out the door. It's definitely my favorite part of the day. But yeah, something about miles shared with people is just so special.
I think so too. I mean, I love running the 20-minute run. For me, that has been a lifesaver. And a lot of people are like, that doesn't even count 20 minutes. And I'm like, oh, I guarantee 20-minute counts. 20-minute runs are so good for the soul. You can go out there and hammer it and get a really nice little workout in. But then I also love those long runs because that's where I really get to know people. And it's kind of like my happy hour. You know, I am a mom. I love being a mom. I don't really want to be away from my family. I love being with my husband. So I don't go out a lot, but I will make time for a long run, you know, once every 7 to 10 days. And then I also love taking 24 to 48 hours off from my long run. I mean, I run hard, but I rest hard. So it's like, gives me an excuse to not have to go anymore. Like I could just go 20 miles and then I don't have to run for 2 days. I'm good. I banked a bunch on Saturday. You know, I'll come back on Tuesday.
I love to hear you say that because I think that so many people, especially in the beginning of their running career, forget how important the rest component is the entire training process. It's almost like they forget to add the rest into the program.
Yeah, you have to have rest. My oldest sister, who is the CFO of our hospital, she's an attorney. She is a CPA. She's got all these degrees.
Wow.
She loves going to school. I did not love going to school. I liked it. I didn't love it. But she gets a run in every day. For a long time, I think she realized that she had to run. She loved it for her mental health. Just, she liked feeling good, but she didn't have the ebbs and flows of training, and it caught up to her. She didn't want to take many days off. She would take a day here and there, but she never really had like a break. I still sort of live the lifestyle of being a scheduled athlete, even though I'll take 48 hours after a long run, which I never probably would have done. I will take a good week off here and there. I don't take months off. I won't take a month of no running, but I will take a week off and miss it. And I think if people don't miss the activity that they're doing, even as the older we get, that doesn't bring the fun then. And if you don't have fun doing the workouts you do when we're as busy as we are, it's not going to happen. So you lose your way. I try really hard to remind myself to have those ebbs and flows. Even if I don't necessarily need it, I like to miss the sport here and there.
God, yeah, I love that. What do you do during your week off? So if you're not going to run at all, what else do you do? Are you doing cross training, or are you just taking it off and chilling out and baking?
I do it all, like maybe instead of being so concerned about a pace or a real hard effort where my heart rate's up, I'll, go for a bike ride with my husband, and we'll go, and he can't have a beer anymore. The poor guy, he used to love to go to breweries and do things like that. And he's intense. So I loved it when he did as well, because he loosens up a little bit. But now he's got like an allergy. He feels like he's got the stomach flu, and who ever wants that? So he hasn't been able to have even a beer or a glass of wine in a couple of years. So now like going for a bike ride would be fun. Like maybe we stop and eat at a couple different places, like that kind of bike ride. Not necessarily one where I'm hammering up the hills and, doing things like that. But I do like to do other workouts. So there's no cross training that is purposeful on my weeks off. I usually just chill. And then when I come back, I'll take a week or two of doing maybe some other exercises and other activities. But you'd be surprised at how much I like to rest. I did love it when I was competing, but I like it now.
I love to rest.
That's okay. My husband calls it the lifetime taper.
Lifetime taper.
I feel like we need shirts, because he has an Ironman coming up. He's been on the lifetime taper. He's been in the pool like 3 times. He hurt his knee, so he's not been running, and he bites here and there. How in the heck are you going to go and compete for 13 hours? But he does.
It's very familiar to us.
A lot of people taking the lifetime taper.
I hope he does okay. I hope he makes it.
He's got to go to Chattanooga from Minnesota. He's studying his bikes. He got a new wetsuit. I'm like, seriously, I have to pick up a whole nother job to fund this one weekend that you taper for all year.
I'm glad that you guys like rest, because I don't like rest, and I'm learning how to like rest. The big payoff of rest is that you get better as a runner when you rest. Amazing, right?
Yeah, it's rocket science, right? I mean, that's what my dad used to tell me all the time, and I thought he had no clue what he was talking about.
It must be something you learn after 40.
When I feel like I learned it, to be honest, was when I had kids. And I worked out pretty hard. I ran until the day I had all 3 of my kids. I remember coming back from them and thinking, there is no reason I'm running like this. I took a full month after each baby. I did not do anything but walks with them. It took a little time, but I popped back pretty fast. And I think that's where I really learned that your body remembers when you don't take those extended breaks over and over and over again. So for me, yes, I've had extended breaks because of injury, but I didn't stop. I would do other activity. So after having children, I realized for the first time I had a month of nothing, basically. Your body will remember. Injuries can pop up, and things like that, but your muscles, your heart, all of that stuff kind of remembers. That muscle memory is so important. And so that I too think is one of the things, and one of the reasons why I don't take extended periods of time, just on vacation from working out. because I just don't want to have to come back and get hurt. A lot of times I did get hurt coming back from extended times off. So I like to rest, but Kacy, I'm with you. Like I like to keep my routine up.
Yeah. So as PTs, we always like to ask people about their injuries, their experience with injuries, what they feel like has helped them both maybe heal from an injury or keep them healthy. So tell us a little bit about the injuries that you've struggled with in your career and what maybe you've learned from them.
Oh man. Do we have like 4 hours? Because I've had a lot of injuries. In high school, I was actually pretty good. I grew about 5 inches, which seems like, is that even a thing? But I did. I grew like 5 inches from 7th to 8th grade. And my running didn't suffer so much, but my shot in basketball was way off. Oh, it was so bad for a while there. I really didn't have many injuries because I didn't have a lot of overuse. You know, I ran maybe 30, 35 miles a week on average up until I graduated high school. My knees hurt one year, but I do think I had another growth spurt. My heels hurt, but I didn't have a lot of overuse injuries like I did once I started going to college. And when I went to college, I had a stress reaction in my 4th metatarsal. When they found that, they found a tumor in my heel. So that was my first real big injury. They filled it with donor bone. I had my first extended period of time off because I could not do anything for 2 months after they packed it with the donor bone. And then it took another 2 months to like walk, jog, and then start to run. That was my first real injury. And they allowed me to do as much as I could. I got on the bike as soon as they allowed me to have any sort of pressure. I could not walk on it. I was still on crutches, but they put me on the bike, they put me on a rowing machine. And then once I was able to be in the water, which I didn't realize, but you know, swimming and aqua jogging is still pressure from the water on injuries at times. So once I was allowed to have the water pressure on my foot, then I got in the water. So I didn't have real long periods away from the sport, but I had a new introduction to how you stay fit in college. And one of the things that I did that I had never done before was I really tackled strength during that first injury that I had. I had a strength coach at Villanova, and she worked my right side so hard because she really believed in the muscle memory coming back then on the left side. And it really worked. I had other injuries. I did the splits, which I'm not a gymnast. I cannot do the splits, but I did the splits over a snowdrift.
That was right before the Olympics, wasn't it?
Yep. Right before the Olympics. So severe. I was really injured at the Olympics. I had 2 stress fractures on my pubic symphysis. I had osteitis pubis. I had torn both adductors, and I had torn the left side of my abs off the bone. I was dealing with that, and it was crazy. But we got through it. And I think the big thing, and like I said, I can talk all day about injuries, but the big thing for me was, you know, learning how to cross train and to keep my mind engaged more so than necessarily just killing myself physically. You know, I think you come back, like I said, faster than you would really think you would, but to stay engaged mentally, that's the hard part.
So what are some of the things that you would do to stay engaged mentally? Because a lot of our athletes and a lot of our listeners struggle with injury. And when you're injured, you know, a lot of times that impacts your athletic identity, who you are as a person, not being able to do the things that you always do, not being able to see the friends that you usually see on your runs. Like, what do you do to keep yourself mentally strong and trying to just know that you're going to come back when you're in that kind of position?
Well, I tried to become an athlete again, not just a runner. Every time I had an injury, I had plantar fasciitis as a pro in one foot for 18 months. And then I had it for 16 months in my other foot, dealt with it, spent 10 grand on my left foot, trying all kinds of stuff. It was crazy. But I do remember telling myself, be the athlete that you want to be. You know, so many times when we're runners, we just get stuck being a runner. And now I'm thinking to myself right now, no joke, practice what you preach, Carrie, because I am so just a runner right now. I just go forward and that's it. Skipping the gym. I'm skipping my stretches. I'm skipping my core because I just want to run. It's beautiful right now in Minnesota. And I know it's going to catch up to me. I know it is. So I need to practice what I preach. But when I was injured, I would do the things that my PTs and my doctors would tell me I could do. And then I would try to make sure that I stayed healthy doing other things. So sometimes I boxed. I wasn't necessarily using my feet in a way that would hurt me. So I would get in the boxing ring and I would box, or, I would get in the pool and do different things. I just challenged myself in a different way. But a quick example of how I stayed in it mentally was I would use the workout plans of my training partners, and I would mimic that on the bike or on the elliptical, or, doing just the same workout, but doing it on the machines or whatever the doctors or PTs allowed me to do. So that's one way. But then I think also just making sure you stay engaged mentally and focusing on your goals, and remembering that sometimes you come away from injuries even a better athlete. So I try to just tell myself that.
I think that happens a lot. I mean, especially when somebody hasn't ever done strength training before and you introduce it to them, or somebody just has always run because that's what they thought they were supposed to do. And you're like, hey, these are all the other things that you can do. I mean, I don't know about you, Kacy, and actually I do, but that's what happens to us all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah. I try to frame it for people, especially if they're in an injury that's going to take a while to recover from, is that the injury was information for us. It doesn't mean anything about you as a person, as like you're doing something right, wrong. It's giving us information to make your body better, stronger, so that you can be the athlete that you want to be. I think that shift sometimes helps, is just looking at it as information about how can you become a better athlete, and looking at it that way sometimes can be helpful.
For sure. All of my PTs and doctors were always thinking about what's next, whether it was a world championship or Olympic Games or setting a new PR, and they would frame their messaging to keep me focused on that. And I think I was really lucky to have really good people in my corner to remind me, like, well, wait, yeah, you're injured right now, but your glutes have been talking for years, like, let's take the time now to do it. And it's hard. I'm not going to say it was awesome to be hurt and awesome to be away from the sport. I tried to get my mind to think, okay, this is a good time for us to become that athlete we want to be, but it hurt. It was hard. I cried a lot. My husband still loved me through injuries, and he proposed while I was injured. So thank goodness, because he saw kind of the good, bad, and the ugly before we even tied the knot.
Well, that was lucky for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, and I mean, lucky for me too, because I saw a couple injuries with him, and even though he was not a professional athlete, he's a happier guy when he can breathe that fresh air. We all miss it.
I think we all are. I mean, I think we're meant to move. As humans, we're meant to move our bodies. And when we don't, it has a physiological impact on us.
For sure.
What are some of the most memorable moments in your running career, and why are they so memorable for you?
Oh, I have a lot of really good memories, and, still building memories, but, I loved high school. It was super fun. We ran on these country roads, and I ran with the guys and the girls on my team, and just built such nice, long-lasting memories and friendships, to be honest. But in college, I went all the way from Minnesota to Villanova, which is out in Philadelphia. And I took a 2.5-hour plane ride on my recruiting trip. But when we drove it, it was 26 hours. I was like, where am I going? I loved it, but I was not going to be able to go home if I missed home, it just didn't happen. I did not really realize it was that long until we actually drove. But the memories of just being there and actually having a family away from home, I had to have these people become family because I was so far away from home. So great memories there. But, I think as a pro, it was really fun to chase my dreams with some of the athletes that were here at Team USA Minnesota, a group that I trained with. Katie McGregor is a really good friend of mine. And, just to be dreaming about such big things at the time, making Olympics, making world championship teams, setting American records, some of the things we didn't do, but we were out there every day encouraging each other. And so I have great memories there. But I guess my favorite memory, besides making the Olympic team and being at the Olympics, was my husband proposed on a run. And as I said, I was injured at the time, and I was actually having a good run, and he stopped and pretended that he sprained his ankle. So then he was like, can you just check it out? Because, well, you guys don't know, but I think I'm a doctor at times. I'm not, but I think I am. I use this thing called Google a lot. And so I diagnose things and recommend. So Anyway, he asked me to take a look at it and I was super annoyed because, with planner, if you stop, it gets pretty mad. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. My foot's going to be bad, but okay. And then he put the ring up as I was coming down to look at his foot. And so that was probably my favorite run.
Oh, I love that. That's really great. I do relate to the anger part though, in the moment before, because I remember running the Boston Marathon with my husband and he started to cramp up around mile 18. Oh. And I was having a really good run and I was going to requalify it all, we just got engaged. I can't just leave him on the side of the road, which is what I wanted to do, honestly. And he knows this. I tell him all the time. I was like, I just want to leave him here, but we just got engaged and I really feel bad because do you leave your fiance on the side of the road? I'm not sure.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
If I did it again, I may have, but no, I stopped and I stretched him out and, whatever. I really showed my love that day, but I can relate. I was mad.
He was walking around with the ring for 3 days because I was so crabby because of my foot. So he had plenty of opportunities to do it. And so he would have found out another time. It's That's okay. True. But I am so thankful for that run. And I'm thankful.
It is actually a really nice memory. And doing something that you love with someone that you love. I mean, that's pretty, I always love the people who wear their like pretend wedding dress or tux that were like running outfits across the finish line at races.
It's so cute. I think of a really good runner, Kira D'Amato. I don't know if you guys know of Kira, but she's like a 2:22 marathoner now. She took a long time off from the sport. She's a realtor. She's got a really fun story, but she and her husband have pictures of them running in a wedding dress, like a running wedding dress and a tux. So yeah, check that out. It's so cute.
That is really cute.
Yeah, I visited my college friends last weekend and they said that they could see me doing something like that. And I was like, no. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I would.
It sounds so fun.
Why not?
Why not?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about commentating and some of the jobs that you've worked there, because that's a profession I'm so fascinated in. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I wanted to get into some sort of commentary when I was in college. I first wanted to be a weather woman. Because I come from Minnesota. Yeah, like I was like, stay inside, don't go outside, it's freezing. But when I went to Villanova, they didn't have meteorology. They had astrology, but they didn't have meteorology. So then I kind of just went into broadcast. But when I got out of college and I was racing so much, I realized you can't do both, right? So I was a professional runner. I was being paid to do that. And that's what my agent was saying is, you can't do both. So I ended up asking one of Tony Revis, who's a really big name in the sport. He's been on air for years. I asked him if I could one day shadow him or work with him. And he remembered. So I started early on doing the rock and roll races, picking and choosing, because obviously I couldn't do everything because I was racing full time. Really cool that he remembered that and lobbed me a softball and said, here, let's do it. And so I've been doing it for years and love every minute of it. It's super hard at times. There's a lot of athletes that you have to research and study. And a lot of people think, well, it's just one day that she's working. Well, usually it's months in advance where I'm trying to keep up the sport, follow the stories, but I've loved it. There's not a lot of women in it. They're trying to get more all the time. And, it's just been a really fun way for me to be able to stay in the sport without having to try to run as fast and to be competing. I now just get to go and talk about everybody else.
You get to see who's doing what and actually probably talk to them. And I think that's a really great way to stay involved in the sport and see where it's going.
Yeah. And, I've been on the vehicle, like the lead vehicle in front of the women's and men's races. And that's been super fun. But then I'm also in the booth narrating the story as well. And I just love it. And it doesn't have to be that it's just fun to do the elites. Like I love interviewing all the athletes from, the front of the pack to people that are bringing up the rear. We have a really cool community. The running community is a great one. I hope I can stay in it for a long time just because it feels like home. It feels like, any race you go to or any group run or whatever, you immediately have friends. Even if I don't know their name, I feel like they're all my friends. Charlie be like, who's that you were just talking to? I'm like, I don't know, but they're a runner and they're my friend. So whatever.
Recently, my son has said, Mom, it's okay. You can keep talking whenever he wants to play or do something. He's decided that if he just gets me in front of a person, I'll just talk and he gets to do whatever he wants.
He can play a little longer.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I get that piece.
Yeah.
So not only do you do the announcing, which you do a lot of, you also have your podcast, See Tolly Run, and you have a training camp. So you and your mom, and you just have so many different things that you're doing, which I think is incredible and really inspiring. What are you really excited about now?
I do wear a ton of different hats. And sometimes my brain is like, what am I doing? Right? Because it's all over the place. And sometimes I crave that normalcy of, maybe having like a 9-to-5 job, but I think I would so miss doing these things that I do. I love being able to travel and do all that. But I think my passion besides running is performing. I love being on stage, emceeing events or calling races or, announcing names and things like that. And I love doing it in a setting where I'm seeing people achieve their goals or have heartache because they didn't get it, but yet they're going to persevere and come back for more. I think that's what I'm made to do. And I love coaching. I love having my camps. I'm still surrounding myself with these like-minded, goal-driven people. And I'm lucky enough that when that red light goes on with cameras, I don't freeze up. A lot of people do. It is scary at times, but it sort of is like when I towed the line, that gun would go up and you either are ready to go for it or you get scared and you don't run the way you want to run. I think that's why I like to perform. It brings back memories, but it also brings back that excitement that I had when I was racing. I think I love being on stage, being competitive, seeing what I can do as an individual and hopefully entertaining the world along the way.
Well, I think you are.
Well, I agree. We'll see. It took a long time for people to accept my long O's and my accents, but now they either like it or they don't. And you know what? It's going to stay. So whatever.
You can't change who you are.
No, I'm not going to school to change that. That's okay.
That is okay. So what other projects are you working on, or what do you see as some of kind of the new goals coming up, or is there anything on the horizon?
Oh, there's always things. Like I think of doing all these fun adult camps and family camps. And I think of all of the things that I could do. There's some things floating around right now. There might be some new stuff coming up that might ground me a little bit and have me home a little bit more. At the same time, I'm still going to always be at those big events, at least as long as I'm being asked to be there. So I'm going to hopefully have more camps. But like I said, not just maybe for the youth, but spread it out for everybody. I've had adult camps before and I've loved it. I have things, but I don't see myself getting away from this sport. In the year of that pandemic, there were a lot of questions where maybe I should try to just get into sales or do something like that. I had these conversations with my husband and my family because I think I could sell something, like I think I could do that. I don't know if I want to.
I know you could, but why would you?
And that's the thing. Like I have had a life where I have been passionate about my work. And if I'm not truly passionate about it, I don't think I will do a good job. I'm not a floater. I want to strive to be good. And even if I'm not good at it, I want to be better at it. So I got to find something that I really like.
I agree with that.
So I want to know a little bit more about the camps and like, what is your driving force behind the camps? And what do you really want people who come to your camps and the people that you coach to get out of it?
I want them to have fun, plain and simple. I introduced a lot of different things to my youth camps, whether it's different types of training, the mentality, we talk nutrition, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, if these kids come to my camp and they walk away not excited about being better runners, but more importantly, better humans, then I have definitely not done my job. When people talk about my camps and they say, well, it's Carrie, she's an Olympic athlete, she won 13 state championships and 5 NCAA championships. Like all she knows is, how to win or whatever. That is so not right. I mean, I've fallen in races. I've been last in races. I've been lapped in races. I know what it's like to dread getting out the door. I know injuries. I know I always could have eaten better. I still can. All of these things. I just want these athletes to understand that is a big part of being a really good athlete, but enjoying it is so much more important. All those little things are big, but if you don't really love it, not necessarily love it so much that you have to try to win, but just really get excited about it, then I just feel like my job, I have not done it. So when they come to camp, I just want them to leave excited about their next season and excited about, just being awesome people, because they all are. Kids at that age, they just need a little attention and a little extra love. And when you come to the Carrie Tollefson training camp, you get lots of love. We dance, we have parties. It's so fun. And so that's what my adult camp would be like.
Yeah, sign me up for that.
Yeah, okay, you have to have the dance parties.
Yes. And usually it's like a theme. So like 80s or rodeo or whatever. But you two could come. You could be my PTs and give the kids all the advice.
Let us know.
Yeah.
So fun. I'm there. You had me at dance party. So
I know. I've been to an adult running camp and it's so fun. The one that I was at, they have it out east, and they actually have a couple locations, but they have tie-dye, bracelet making, they do all the kids stuff, but yet they teach a little bit more about running in an adult way. So it's super fun. They definitely have dances.
As an adult, it doesn't mean we don't like that kind of thing. Just because we're adults doesn't mean we don't like to have fun.
And life can be fun, people.
It can. It's not always about work. I mean, let's blow some bubbles.
Exactly. Thank you. They have slip and slide. We do slip and slide.
That's really fun.
But it's an injury waiting to happen. So
yes, it is. So you have to be careful with that one.
Yeah.
Especially with adults who don't do that type of thing.
I just sit on my butt and scoot.
Do you?
Because I'm like, I will pull an adductor. And I don't want to do that ever again.
I was going to say, watch those adductors, Carrie.
I know. Right?
Yes.
I can see you scooting down.
I totally do. Like, push me from behind. I'll be good.
Where I live, we have a lot of adult leagues. So we have kickball leagues, softball league, people play football, and that's usually on Thursday. So every Thursday night and Friday morning, we get a lot of calls at our practice.
I believe
all
it
the adults.
100%. My latest running injury was not from running. It was from punting the ball to Everett, my 8-year-old.
Oh yeah.
So, and I loved it. I was like, I have so wanted to be a punter for so long. Like all these years of pampering myself because I was going to get injured just by running. And then I went and started punting and I was loving it. And I'm like, why is my patella hurting? Oh, it's not from running because I don't run that much. Like my mileage is not that high. It was from kicking the ball, but I would not change it for the world because he loved it. I can suffer a little bit to punt that ball to him.
Heck yeah, you can. It's totally worth it, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Just be careful.
Just be very careful.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of our podcast, we usually do 3 questions and we're getting close because I don't want to overdo it. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. So we do have to stop at some point. But the one question I want to ask before that is we talked earlier about how we're kind of new podcasters, so this is our 2nd season, and our 1st season, we weren't very brave. We talked to all the people we knew in our network, and this season we're becoming more brave and we're reaching out to people that we don't necessarily know as well. And it's really exciting. But what would your advice be to us who are really nerdy about the sport of running and want to do the best we can for our tribe? What's some of the things you've learned?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think just interviewing all types of people. You think a lot of times that the elites have access to everything, and they do. A lot of times they do. They've been through it, but they're not like us, and I can say that now because I'm not elite anymore. People still see that I run fast. Yeah, I've been blessed with fast legs. I have no business running as fast as I do anymore because I don't train properly. I don't treat myself properly, but I'm like everybody else. I get home and I got 3 kids pulling at me and I don't have time to stretch a lot, or I don't make the time. I get in the shower right away. So I think, learning from the elites is super cool because they have all these different and new technologies and new treatments that are out there that are being tested on them and things like that. But we can learn a lot from the newbie runner. that pregnant runner or whatever. So for me, my podcast, like you guys, I've had to figure out what my niche is. And I guess my niche isn't just elites, which I do get a lot of elites because I run in those circles. Mm-hmm. But I've had just as much fun learning from all types of runners. I think learning is the big thing. I learn from all types of runners.
That's what we hope to do, is learn from everybody and then spread it out into the world so we can help more people. Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, keep the fun in the sport of running as well. We're all about fun here.
Please, because it is a hard sport. Mm-hmm. You know, every run you go on, even if it's just supposed to be recovery, it still is hard. You know, I think you forget that. People think it's always easy for me. Yes, aspects of it are easier for me. You know, I can go out and run 7-minute pace pretty much every day, but it's still hard. It's all relative.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and I guess we'll get to our final 3 questions. These are kind of in alignment with what we've been talking about. So that's a really great segue that we just did. First thing we want to know is, what is the thing you do regularly to take care of yourself?
Run. I swear it is like, that is my thing. But, you know, I do have a couple things that I love to do. It's funny. You guys can talk about the science behind it, but I take baths after every run. Like, yeah, I am a bath girl. Because one person don't even know what their background is, no idea if they know what they're talking about, but they've told me warm water now is almost just as effective as cold a lot of time, or at least there's this debate going on, and I'm going to choose the warm water route. So I take baths after every run and probably twice a day. A lot of times that's my thing.
You can also lock the door and you're alone.
Sort of. I don't think I've been in the bathroom by myself in what is Ruby 11 years? In 11 years.
No, I know. It's very true. I actually have 2 Weimaraner puppies now too. So they just sit there when I'm in the bathroom. And then my son is like, Mom, what are you doing in there? Mom, what are you doing?
Well, and this is the thing, guys. Some people are not bath people. So they might be grossed out, but I don't care. And I can take a very quick bath and I can take a long bath. So I'm not like sitting every day for an hour in the bath. Like, I just take a quick bath and move on.
No, it's nice.
Love it.
Our second question is, what brings you joy right now? Or what is bringing you joy right now?
Oh, you know, we are getting into this beautiful time in Minnesota where, you know, a lot of people think it's cold 24/7, 365, but we have very hot, humid summers, just like you guys do in Atlanta. Not quite as humid, but we have very thick weather in the summer. So right now there's just 6 to 8 weeks in the fall where it is absolutely gorgeous. And I think my favorite thing to do is to get out and throw the football with my kids and go on bike rides with my kids and just be outside because it's still warm enough. The sun is still warm where I can be in a tank top, yet the mornings are cool and crisp. So I feel really refreshed when I get back in. So spending time with the kids is probably my favorite thing to do.
That's great.
All right. So our last question is, what is your kryptonite? So something you love so much, you can't imagine life without it.
Oh gosh, you guys, I'm such a nerd, but running. But I also would have to say, if I can just get away from the run, my kryptonite would probably be a dance floor. And I am not necessarily the best dancer, but you bring out the 80s moves in me and everybody around will have a good time because it's just like, how can you not have fun dancing like you grew up in the 80s? And I was little in the 80s. My sisters were older, going to a wedding dance or, you know, wedding reception, going out downtown from like 7 to 9 p.m. Like, don't ask me to stay out dancing until midnight because that just is not happening anymore. But if I could go to a club from 7 to 9 and dance my head off, I would. And so that's probably my kryptonite.
Oh my gosh, Carrie, can we make this a thing? Like, can we make an adult early dance party? Because I love to dance too, but like, I don't see 10 p.m. anymore.
Why would we have to? I never understood that. I was the girl that would start the dance party at the clubs early. I have never had a drink of alcohol, you guys, but I would be on the dance floor in the bars when the sun was still out. I didn't care. So, because, you know, summertime, the sun doesn't go down till 9:30. I would be out there and a few would trickle here and there and maybe not, but I got my groove on. I don't care.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I agree with the early bedtime. It's great to go to bed early. You feel so good. And just dancing it out beforehand. I mean, that's a dream come true.
It is. It's the best. And I get awfully cranky these days. I don't know if it's hormonal changes or what. The second a good song comes on and the kids start, it just brings happy. Get your groove on, people. Have fun. We do the wooden spoons for microphones in my family. That's fun. My son loves to dance as well. And he's like, come on, Mom, it's a dance party in the kitchen. That's like our normal thing almost every night when we're making dinner. So yeah. I love it. It's a good pastime. You could call it that. What do you do in your pastime? I dance. We dance. Yeah. All right, Carrie, this has been amazing. I'm so glad you came on the show. I think people are really going to love this discussion as much as I did and we did. Hey, well, thanks for having me. Life is good, I mean, for me, if I can get out the door a little bit here and there and enjoy that fresh air, like I talked about, and enjoy, other people's company, it's good. So put one foot in front of the other, you guys, whether you're walking or running, it's a good thing. I agree. All right.
That's right. 1 mile at a time.
1 mile at a time. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that it resonated with you and that you learned something. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps increase our visibility within the platform so that more awesome people like you can find us.
If you'd like to support us further, pretty please, you can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/morethanmiles. That's www.patreon.com/morethanmiles. Or for a few dollars, you can help the show grow and keep going, as well as receive exclusive perks like monthly Q&As with us. Until next time, remember to run the mile you're in, and that training is so much more than miles.